Okay, guys, with the delayed opening in Tom's River again, I cannot be there with you in person to go over your review packet. So I thought this would kind of be the next best thing. So I want to walk you through the what's included, and then kind of give you the rundown of what this is going to look like as far as your exam is concerned. So you'll see the first page of the outline that you all received is just a checklist. So these are the chapters that you're going to be responsible for from the vocab. And again, that's just the vocab that you did with Mr. Kodo. And we did 2A, 3A, and 3B together. This is the way the vocabulary questions will be presented. And then from a grammar standpoint, these are the topics you'll have to be able to do. So you'll have to write the date. You'll have to know, understand, and explain the difference between to and usted. You'll have to conjugate AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs, and you'll have to do adjective agreement. So you guys will see that there's a lot of blank space on your review packet. So I'm going to go through the notes piece of it together. I'm going to kind of type on the doc, and you guys can use this video to fill in anything you have to fill in. But you will be allowed to use this review packet on the exam. So you are more than welcome to write anything else that you want that would make it helpful. So like, for example, when it comes to writing the date, if you don't know how to say or spell the months, you can add them to the review packet on your own. Just write them separately. If you don't know the numbers, again, you can write the numbers, to make sure you have them spelled correctly. If you don't know the difference between to and usted and you have to or would like to look that up just to verify, again, you are more than welcome to add anything to this review packet that would make it helpful for you. The only thing you can't do is attach any additional pages. So you can write on any of the blank pieces of paper, blank spaces. You can flip it over. You'll see that the back side of each page is blank. There's tons of blank space for you to write on. So you can't attach any additional papers, but you can take from your notes and vocab sheets and add anything you want to this. Okay, so I am going to go through again. I'm going to go through each of these note sections together. Feel free to fill them in as I'm going through. If there are certain sections that you're comfortable with and confident with, just fast forward until we get to the next section. Okay, so as far as giving the date in Spanish, if you remember, this is probably one of the first things you did with Senor Coto, right? So when you want to give the date in Spanish, the equation is we do el, and then the number, day, and then the month. So for example, if I was going to give today's date, today is January 28th, I would say el 28 de enero. And again, you'll see I didn't do anything funky or anything weird. I just followed my own equation. So I do the word el, then the number, day, and then the month. Okay, so again, feel free on your own if you want to add anything that you need to add. If you don't know the months, you don't know how to spell the numbers, whatever you need, feel free to add that. Okay, I did get a couple Google Classroom comments about adjective agreement. So basically, we did some adjective agreement together. So if you guys remember, basically adjective agreement is when you change an adjective to make it match who or what you're talking about. So for example, if you have an adjective that ends with an O, like if I was going to use serio is my example. If I'm talking about one male, so if I'm using something that's masculine, singular, serio would stay the same. If I'm talking about one female, so that's feminine singular, serio becomes seria, right? We would change the O to an A. If I'm talking about masculine plural, so remember that would either be a group of guys or mixed company, right? That would become serios. And feminine plural, so all females, would be serias. Okay? Now, and I'm just going to kind of bold these endings because this is the most important part, right? So when you're dealing with any adjective, like if you're talking about food and you want to say the pizza is delicious. Delicious is sabroso. Well, pizza, since it's feminine, that would be sabrosa, right? So that's what adjective agreement is, when you change the endings of your adjectives to make them match. Okay. So now if you have an adjective that ends with an E, So I'd like you to add one little thing to this. So an E or an A, right? And we're gonna look at some examples. So if you wanted to say somebody is patient, you want to say they're paciente. The thing with adjective that ends with an E is that masculine and feminine don't matter. So masculine singular and feminine singular are all paciente, right? There's no such way to make that word paciente or any adjective that ends with an E feminine. They just are. So the only thing that matters is if it's singular or plural, right? So if it's masculine plural and or feminine plural, we just add an S. Okay, and again, I'm going to bold those. And it's the same thing with an adjective that ends with an A. Like, for example, if I use deportista, remember deportista is like athletic. It's going to be the same exact thing. So if I'm talking about one guy being athletic or one girl being athletic, they would be, deportista. And if I'm talking about a group of people, they would be deportistas. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Now, you guys only learned one adjective that ends with an R, and that would be trabajador. If you remember, that means hardworking. So if I'm talking about one guy, masculine singular, it's going to stay the same. Feminine singular, so one female is hardworking. She's trabajadora. A group of people are trabajadores. And a group of females are trabajadoras. Okay, and again, I'm just going to bold these endings just so you guys can kind of keep note that, I use these adjectives as my examples. There's other ones on your test, but you kind of have an idea. So any adjective that ends with an O follows the same rule as serio. Any adjective that ends with an E or an A follows the same rules as paciente and deportista. And anything that ends with an R follows the same rules as trabajador. Okay? All right, here we go. We're moving and grooving. We're making moves here. So now this is where we kind of picked up together with subject pronouns. And if you remember, this was the first step to learning how to conjugate a verb. So when I want to do my subject pronouns in Spanish, if you remember, I is yo. You is tú. Let me put my accent mark. Okay, I'm going to need another one here. So if you remember, he is él, she is ella, and you formal is usted. Now, if I'm using we, nosotros, and nosotras. If I'm in Spain, that informal you all is vosotros and vosotras. And again, if I wanted to say they, if it's all boys or mixed company, that would be ellos. All girls is ellas. And you guys, and except for Spain, this is the way to say you guys anywhere in the Spanish-speaking world. And that's ustedes. Okay? And if you remember, once we learned these subject pronouns, then we were able to learn how to conjugate a verb. All right? So now, the steps for conjugating a verb. First step, if you recall, we had to decide on a subject. Who are we talking about? Because remember we said when we conjugate a verb, that means we give it a subject and a period of time. So the first thing we have to decide on is who. Okay? Then we're going to drop the ending. So in the case, what we've learned is we're going to drop either the AR, the ER, or the IR from the infinitive. Then step 3, we're going to add a new ending based on our subject. Okay? And that's what we kind of went through. We went through AR verb endings, ER, and IR verbs, and we learned that each set of verb endings, or each verb, each category, has its own set of endings. So if I want to conjugate an AR verb, my yo ending is O. My tú ending is as. El ella usted is a. Nosotros is amos. Vosotros, and I need my accent again. Is ice. And ellos is on. Okay? And remember, whoa, hey, that is not what I wanted to do. There we go. And if you remember, when we took off the AR, right, each of these endings represented a person. So if I'm talking about I do something, I study, I listen, I practice, I swim, right? O represents I. You is represented by the AS ending. He or she is represented by A, and so on and so on and so on. Now, if you remember, going from an AR verb to an ER verb, we're going to change all these letter A's to E's. Okay, the O, yo is always O though, so that's easy. Then we've got as becomes es, a becomes e, amos to hemos. I need my accent mark again. We've got ace, and then, oops. Okay, and let me undo that. Now, ER verbs and IR verbs were very similar. So again, if you remember, they're all going to be the same, except there's two that are going to be different. So O again, es, e. Now, these two are where it's different. Emos for an IR verb. And I need my accent mark one more time. Is, and then N. Okay? Now, that's going to cover you guys for the notes, okay? And again, you are welcome to put anything on this review packet that would make it helpful for you. You want to practice conjugating a verb. You want to go through and write vocab words that you're unsure of. You want to, again, like I said about doing the date, you want to put the months and the numbers so that you have, some confidence with those things. Whatever would make this vocab sheet work best, or this review sheet rather, work best for you, it's all good. Now, just a couple things I just want to make sure that we all understand. You're expected to bring this with you to school tomorrow. So if you come to the exam and you don't have the review packet with you, or it's not done, unfortunately, you won't have any resources to use. So this is kind of on you, right? I've now given you all the notes if you didn't have them already filled in, so you can fill in any blanks that you have. But at this point, you guys you're on your own as far as what to add and how you want to add and what would be helpful for you. Okay. And then on tomorrow, like I said, when you guys come to your exam, you're going to bring the packet. If we have any last minute questions before we start taking the test, we'll go over some things, and then we will start our exam. Okay. Now I will be to school around 10:30. So that's like period 3-ish. If you have any questions, if you have anything you want to talk about or go over, feel free to stop by. But other than that, I will see you guys on Friday. Oh, now there's going to be a Kahoot posted and a Blooket. Those things will be extra credit. So what I'll do is, I will give you, there's like a range of grades. So depending on how well you do, it'll correspond to a certain number of extra credit points on your final. Again, it's optional. Extra credit is always optional, but I just figured, some extra points would never hurt. Okay? All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow.